Hello and welcome to the 10th broadcast of Community Library Training. I'm hopeful that you received your mail in which we made an announcement that this broadcast for the first time is going to be kind of a free-sailing one in which we have not planned a specific program. And I know from members of the studio crew that a number of you are there, and I'm hopeful that you're ready to spend some time experimenting with calling in and talking back and forth today. And I really am going to make myself stick to the fact that this is more or less going to be your broadcast more than the kind of broadcast where we have someone as a guest. However, I do have a couple of announcements, and we'll try and take care of those very quickly. It was the same mail-out that we mentioned we would be having 3 broadcasts in February, today, next Thursday, and the Thursday following, or the 20th and the 27th. And at that time, we thought that we would have the children's program ready to go by next Thursday, or February 20th. And we've discovered that there's a lot more involved in putting together that production than we had thought. So we're going to reverse those 2 dates. This is just for your information. We will have broadcast on the 20th and on the 27th, but we're going to flip the program. So you'll be seeing the repeat of what we're beginning to call the Phineas T. Have-Not production, which was the program on weeding small library collection. It's a program that we did broadcast once before, and several of you asked to have it on again. So we'll be having that next Thursday. Then on the 27th will be the program featuring the children. So that's a program change. The 5 minutes earlier, just to repeat myself, is a permanent change. It's not temporary. It's not this time only. We're broadcasting at 5:10, 4:10, and 3:10, depending on where you are. Okay, today's format is really going to be call in anytime. And the way I would like to work it would be that I am especially interested to get your input on ideas for a spring workshop, and I would like to kind of have us focus on that as a topic first. But we do not have to spend a long time on that. And any kind of question or comment, either on the course or absolutely anything that you've been saving up and want to talk about, is valid. And I'm hoping that you'll interrupt. That's not even the word. It's not interrupt. It's really call in for today. So what I'm going to do is, it's been some time that I asked members of the Institute if they would begin to recommend some ideas for spring workshop. And I've got some of those ideas, and what I really would like to do would be to mention those to you now, and I would like to write them down on an easel I've got right here next to me. I'm going to go ahead and put these on so that if you have comments that I can hear you. And I'll share with you some of the suggestions that have come from other members of the group. Okay, and we'll just we'll write them down here, and then as you have other ideas, I want you to call them into me. Incidentally, the spring workshops will most likely be held regionally, which means we'll probably be repeating the program 3 times and holding it. I don't know, might be one of the things that you'd like to talk about, is where we're really going to hold it. Okay, the first one that was suggested to me was how to improve my reference skills. So I'm just going to write that down. Reference. And another suggestion was establishing local library support. That is, developing trustees and friends of the libraries type groups. So maybe I'll just call that, just for the purpose now, local library trustees.
From the legislative workshop that community librarians might want to take a look at how they work with the government officials in their own communities to help increase community support.
Okay. Fairbanks, I was hearing rather clearly talking about the relationship now in this issue of local library trustees, the fact that we are approaching legislative workshops and there would be a tie-in. I frankly did not hear all of the comment from Fairbanks. Mary, if that's you and you'd like to, I'm going to ask you to speak more slowly so I can hear you maybe a little more clearly. But I understand the comment was in relationship to the local library trustees. I'm going to go ahead and okay. We also had a suggestion for cataloging books and non-print materials. I'm withholding comment on any of these suggestions right now, and I hope that we'll get back to another whole area. Several other suggestions have come in the realm of how to attract the public to use the library. So that's a big one, and there are several suggestions along with that. Attracting the public. If I remember, that even came up in November. Oh, and here's one that you may think also parallels that last suggestion rather closely. And that is the topic is what makes a community library user-oriented. I'm almost at the end of my list. Okay, the last one maybe fits in too, and then I'm going to give you a chance to either make some suggestions adding to this list or maybe solicit your comments on these suggestions. This topic is a little bit different. The student said, how can my library be a center for community information? So, a center, an info center. Okay, those are the topics that have been suggested to me, and I'll just kind of go backwards now. Obviously, this is a rather small list, and obviously there are things that you're going to have to suggest that we ought to at least consider. Nancy, I think Nancy Bosco is in Nenana. Nancy, I understand that the signal we're receiving from you is fairly weak, but if you're there, I'd really like to have your comments, either on these topics or other topics that you think you'd like to see us consider. Nanny, we copy. Is that Nancy? Okay.
I could really use all of this information, but what I'd like to have is something on policy, library policy.
Okay, Nancy, you asked me to add to the list, I think. I think that's what you said to me. You said add to the list, library, and then I didn't hear your last word.
That was setting up the library policy district board.
Okay, excuse me just a second, because a member of the crew has heard her. Policy. Library policies, right, Nancy. I remember that you were one of the people who began to work on formulating policies. I think it was right after the workshop, and you'd like to see us go into that a little bit more. Okay. In fact, there is another section in the course that gets us back into dealing with policies and setting objectives and so forth for our library. So good suggestion. I think if I can call Luvia Sniffen now in Tanana, I think that Luvia is there, and maybe another member of the class too. I'd like to have her comments.
Sure, this is Livia. Do you copy?
Yes, Livia, I copy very clearly, much more clearly than last week.
Good. I think I've got it working okay. I was a little late, so I've missed part of it. What I've seen you write down has been in line with what we would like to discuss. I think, too, I don't know exactly how to phrase this, but we have trouble in selecting books. A selection policy. So, I don't know whether you want to write that down like that, or what do you think?
Okay, tell me if I understood you correctly. I think you said that you had trouble, or you wanted assistance in book selection, what to buy, and tell me, did I understand you correctly?
That's, you understood me correctly. I think the problem with us is that we have, our library is the school library as well, so we have a lot of children using the library and not very many adults.
Okay.
So we have a very lopsided collection, for one thing, and also what's popular is sort of something that's not permanent, like paperback westerns, and all that sort of stuff is very popular in our library, and yet we don't know whether that should be sort of permanent collection.
Okay, I think you expressed the situation rather clearly, and at least I understand very much about what you're talking about. I'm going to suggest, Olivia, and maybe this will make sense to you, when Nancy mentioned that she would like to talk about library policies, and then you're adding that you'd like to know about developing a collection, trying to determine what is the most sensible purchase, what's the best long-term use, the fact that your particular community plays both roles of a school library and a community library. I would like to suggest that that particular issue might tie in rather well with the whole idea of establishing policies for your library. Because when you determine some of your policies, you will determine, following right down the line, you will determine some of the kinds of issues about what you're going to buy and what you're going to keep. I think it's a good suggestion. I'm going to write it down. I'm just going to put selecting for I'm going to use that word again. That word sometimes bothers us. Selecting for users, but I think essentially that's what you were talking about, making that kind of choice. Okay, I want to come back to you, Olivia, when we go back through this one more time, and also for any other comments that you might have. I don't know if we have any students in Anchorage today. I'm going to pass Anchorage by right now and ask if Betty Watson is in Petersburg, and if she'd like to add anything to the list or have us go back. Betty?
This is Ruth Sandvik, speaking for Betty Watson.
How do you do, Ruth? I copy you.
I'm enjoying listening to all the programs. We appreciated the reading program very much, and we have two offshoot questions. One, we found our public library did not have the public library catalog. In our haste, we rushed off to order it and sent for a 1968 edition. We're wondering, would Wilson automatically send us the last edition, or should we write a letter? I'll pause.
Okay, Ruth, it's very nice to get to talk to you. Betty mentioned that you had been participating in the programs, and what I wrote down, or what I understood from what you said, was that you appreciated the program that Nancy Abona helped us with, the one on weeding, and that you found when you looked at your local public library that you did not have an edition of the public library catalog, which I agree is going to be very helpful in the weeding process. It is something that the State Library would be very glad to loan to you for the process that you get involved in weeding. If you're really interested in buying public library catalog, we can also help you, give you information about that. I did not hear, or I'm not sure I understood the second thing. You asked for a most recent edition, and I'm not sure I understood the second part. Do you mind repeating that?
Thank you. We already ordered a public library catalog. In our haste, we ordered a 1968 edition.
Oh.
Hoping, now we ask you, would they automatically send us a 73?
I would like to think that they would automatically send you the most recent edition. Frankly, I'm not sure we can count on it. It could be that they really believe that you want a 68. Some larger libraries keep a full run. They even keep previous editions. So chances are pretty good that they're liable to send you a 68. And if they do, and you might just want to send it back and tell them you really have greatest use for the most recent edition. In any event, while you're waiting for the right one to arrive, we'd be glad to loan you one. I'm very pleased that you decided to buy that for your public library. That's good.
Thank you. Two more short questions.
Okay.
One, we have a lot of old books in print going back a long time. Should we weed all of them? Second question, will your workshop people be scheduled to be with the Alaska Library Association meeting in Kodiak?
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Ruth, I'm going to answer the workshop question first and get back to your question about books in print. We considered trying to tie in the Kodiak conference with another workshop for the students in the Institute. And we played around with that for quite a while and finally decided against it. It is true, though, that at the Kodiak conference, the ACLA conference, we do have a time set aside Sunday morning, so that those students who are part of the Institute who are also attending ACLA will be able to get together. And what we're doing there is going to be very informal, but it'll be a good time to kind of brainstorm and do some problem solving, maybe go even a little bit further with suggestions for spring workshops. But the spring workshops themselves will be held regionally. And I'm thinking in terms of something like well, frankly, our last satellite broadcast is in May, in the first part of May. And I know that a lot of people have different things going on in the summer, so we're kind of looking at the months of April and May for spring workshops. But our Kodiak get-together is a very informal one, and at this point I don't know how many of our students will be able to come. To answer your question about books in print, I have not been in the Petersburg Public Library, but from what you have said and what Betty has said in the past, I know that space must be of a premium. And books in print, it's that thick, takes up that much room. I would initially say to you, keep only your most recent edition of books in print, because the real purpose of the tool is to let you know what is currently available. If you have found, on the other hand, that you have any use for a '69 edition of books in print, I would question whether or not you would have used it very much. And so my first response is to say, if you have not used them, just take a firm grip on all of your back issues and get rid of them. Okay, we're filling up time a lot more quickly than I thought we were going to, and I have some other questions that maybe aren't. I'd like to give Fairbanks a try again. This is something that does not have to do with ideas for the workshop. It really has to do with a specific request from Barbara Whitaker, who has asked me, were the audio cassettes mailed? Did Crystal Ensminger get a chance to mail the audio cassettes on to Barbara Whitaker? And so if Fairbanks would like, if you know the answer to that question, would like to answer that, that would be helpful to me.
Fairbanks Clinic, Casino. Sheila, this is Paula Russell calling. I have not seen Crystal since I got the audio tape to her. I will give her a call tonight and find out if she has mailed them or not. If she hasn't, I'll tell her that they need to get on the way.
Okay, Paula, thank you. I heard you rather clearly. It's not an urgent situation. What is happening to us is we're always puzzled about what on earth is going on with the mail system. And if they have been mailed and are lost, we simply send some, send an additional copies. Thank you, though, for your help and just passing the message on to Crystal. Paula, did you have any additional things that you would like us to consider in the spring workshop? I have a feeling that in your territory we'll probably try to make Fairbanks the location for the spring workshop. So are there some things that you would like us to consider at this point?
Fairbanks Clinic, as far as the topics, I think you have quite a variety there from which to choose from. I would suggest you, as far as the format of the workshop, that we have more time to perhaps study in depth the topics that we are most interested in at this point. And of course, the new North Pole Library is open. Just depending on the size of the group, you might consider that as a possible site for the workshop.
Okay.
There are facilities there that are open to the public, and I think it would be a very nice place to have the workshop.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Paula. That's something that we hadn't. It's a point that I don't think I had considered, the idea also of going in depth. So that's helpful. That's good to know. Okay. Well, we're really moving right along. I think one of the questions, since Nancy Bosco is in Nana and Luvia is in Tanana today, I'm going to move away from this for just a little while and move to a different question. We've got, again, a lot of things that we didn't really mention here. My hidden agenda, and when I think about our spring workshop, is to, my mind kind of races with the exciting possibility of being able to do demonstrations of public services in our spring workshops. And I can see all kinds of things like developing special services for adults, and maybe developing special services for the business community, or how to program with story hours and so forth. And incidentally, I know someone who could really help us with a story hour thing. I visited Helen Brundage in Palmer and discovered that she has something like 40 children in their community who come on a regular basis for story time. So there would be someone. Anyway, my hidden agenda is that maybe we can focus also on some exemplary services. I think it's a more exciting thing too. And I think we can tie in, well, I can't spend all my time on the program thinking about this, but it's been helpful to get your comments. I think we can tie in a lot of the things that you've already mentioned. Okay. Here's a question to get back to maybe Luvia and Nancy. This question came from Betty Watson to me some time ago in Petersburg. And she was saying, and Ruth probably has been involved in this too, she was saying that the Petersburg community was considering and at least exploring the idea of rental collections. And she asked me if I would comment on the McNaughton rental service. And what I have done is not comment to her at all or respond. One of her questions, and she asked me if I would consider using this, getting your input on this. Have any of the other small libraries considered McNaughton rental as a small library? Nancy, is it something that you have talked about, or people in your community? Are you familiar with the rental service, I guess? Or do you know of any that small libraries that have used rental books? Nancy, that was, I really wish I had heard very clearly everything you said, because you obviously have had some experience with rental books. I'm hoping that the distortion I received isn't a distortion that the rest of the people have. This whole rental issue is something that maybe we can get into and follow through, you know, in depth. I want to get back to you then, knowing if you've had some experience or some opinions about it. I guess the biggest danger and the thing that we think about the most is that if a library has a very small budget, rental books might actually, there might be a danger of it consuming almost their entire materials budget. Mary, in your experience in Fairbanks now, or in your whole northern region, are you aware of any small libraries that are on a regular McNaughton plan?
Sheila, Paula told me that the North Pole Library is receiving the McNaughton collections. The Nome Public Library is a regular subscriber to McNaughton. And in addition, there are 10 small community libraries in the northern region which are receiving a free service from the Borough Library, and this includes maybe 10 to 20 McNaughtons a month. The program is just terminated, but Tanana and Nenana have both received this program and could comment on what they think about the McNaughton.
Okay, that's good. I'm glad that I did use our video broadcast as an opportunity to get, to ask that question. Mary, well, that'll be good. Nome, and there will be several communities then, and as Paula said, the North Pole, if they're using it, what we might be able to do would be to draw together the opinions of those people who already had some experience with it. Okay, do we have someone else who's trying to make a comment? I guess perhaps not. I'm really thrilled the fact that 30 minutes have just practically zoomed past, and I wondered if we were going to be able, in a no-content situation, be able to fill up our 30 minutes. I'm very pleased that that the system of being able actually to talk to each other, we didn't touch with any problems that you're having on the course, but it's delightful to know that if we don't plan a formal program, that we can get comments from you. Do we have someone else trying to contact? Okay, Ninana, I believe.
Yes. Sheila, this is Dorothy. I
Hi.
understand that you didn't get my lesson. Shall I just send another duplicate or what? Not you, but Joe Schubert.
Okay, Dorothy, hi. I'm sorry I did not hear your question or your comment, and I'm going to take time. We're very close to end of broadcast, but I'm going to take time to ask you to repeat it.
In regard to my lesson, I understand that it was not received. Should I just go ahead and turn off a duplicate now?
Okay, wow. I'm sorry. I'm hopeful that another member of the studio really caught what you said. Maybe, in fact, someone can help me right now. Oh, Dorothy asked me if I received the lesson. Okay, thank you. Someone else did clear me up on that. Actually, your lessons that go into Joe Schubert are directly into Joe, and I think by this time, every one of the students in the whole program has sent in, their first lesson at least. So everything seems to be pretty clear. I hope that you're getting your materials for interlibrary loan. We have just now successfully filled up 30 minutes visiting, and I can't think of anything I've enjoyed doing more. And we'll see you 2 broadcasts from now. I'll personally see you.